All right. Kuhatesha, Hatsi Kambakiha Shane. So in my Caddo language, that means hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Shane, and so I like to speak my language because my language is currently a sleeping language right now. One of our last speakers actually passed away, so we're currently trying to go through a revitalization process for the language, and I do speak it so I can keep our language alive and keep the memory alive of it as well. And so some of the pieces I will be talking about today, I'll be talking a lot about Native American issues and where I come from. And, as Native American people, we have a very beautiful culture. We have very beautiful, people that are in there, and we have a beautiful history. But that history also comes in contact with colonization as well, and a lot of the oppression and violence that we have also faced too. So just a quick disclaimer that, I do touch on those topics very unapologetically as well, because I want to be honest about who I am, and I want to be honest about the history that my people have went through as well. But with that being said, if you hear something you like, or you hear just like a verse that inspires you from me or any of the other poets, feel free to snap your fingers, feel free to clap briefly, feel free to say, man, or dang, that was dope, or something like that. So it's like, you don't have to sit there quietly. You are as much as part of the poetry as I am right now. So thank you guys, and I appreciate you being here. And before I start, how are we all doing today?
I'm doing great.
All right. I like the sound of that. Well, we're going to have an even better time, too. So I'll read my first piece right now. And I actually, I wrote this a few hours ago. I wanted to make something new for you guys, specifically. New stuff. And it goes something like this, and I call it Selective Empathy. And I say that I was birthed in a world where indigenous nations are forced to conform. So when I speak on a platform, I will never be timid. I don't speak for me, I speak for my lineage. All of my relations are deeply intimate. You can never buy me out. As long as I live, the fire will never die out. You speak of empathy like some type of weakness, like it's something needless. But here I stand with peers, so if you are cut down by the same sword you swung, then my empathy will not allow me to shed any tears. For the fate that chooses to create my existence as a human being is not up for debate. So go ahead and use your buzzwords to try and escape, because the most aggressive men are the smallest in stature. Who knows about the Wounded Knee massacre, where 300 men, women, and children were murdered by U.S. Army bullets filled with hatred that colonialism loves to harbor? The 31 soldiers killed in self-defense would receive the Medal of Honor. And it's weird because it's like looking in a mirror of how society views me, how they would laugh if a bullet passed right through me. I know I will see no mercy on my journey. I see it every time I press play, as our current administration refuses to take their medals of honor away. See, I see a clear villain. Apparently, it's honorable to kill children. That is what we consider bravery. We turn our backs on truth so lazily. They could never face me. They would only deface me, clinging to their dying views. They cannot understand that I am the very descendant of the tribes that they couldn't remove. So I scoff at the notion that violence has no place in politics. But let's be honest with our history and lore. Violence is the foundation of our politics and very core. So why do we take these benevolent narratives and persist to believe the image of a nation that never did exist? But let me speak to the past, tribe, and identity, because violence is coded in our DNA, but so is empathy. When the first humans emerged, it was cooperation in our endeavors that shielded us from the coldest weathers and deadly predators. That is where true wealth is made. So I believe that no man is self-made. No one person can make it big. A Christ-like figure didn't die for me. My grandmothers did. My nation with the sleeping language, yet I am the object of someone's hatred, because my existence is a stain on history that most wouldn't acknowledge. So we ban books to keep the truth as a hostage. But let me be so bold. You can't jail the oral traditions that are spoken and told. Around sacred fires where the burdens of our world feel so much lighter, instead of smoking guns, I will pass down the sacred fire to my daughters and sons. And they may have to run the ones with how historical record tries to turn our lights out, as they write about the dystopia authors only write about. But as long as I have the floor, I will demand my humanity until you can't ignore. But if you show me empathy, then I will happily acknowledge yours. My first one. So this one kind of came to me a little bit. It was a little joke I made with my wife, and I said, what would happen if I became president? And I listed her all the things that I would do, and I'd be like, dang, I'd probably get killed in a week. I probably would not last that long, but I just kind of wanted to envision a little bit of it, and I just call it President for a Week. And I say, riding on a train and the destination hates me, never in control of where the stuff would take me. Trying to be fantastic, yet I am invisible. Jealous men over here love to be so critical of the way I move. View me like the way the Christians see the blues. Judgment follows frowns when I'm out loud. I wow crowds. I attract the butterflies, the heroes and the loudmouths, the radicals, the animals, the teachers who never touch their sick leave or sabbaticals. As an individual, my spaces are in the liminal. People hear my voice and say my positions should be political. And I'd bet I'd achieve historical feats, but if I was elected on Monday, I'd probably be dead by the end of the week. My wife, the first lady, begins to weep as my body lays in state, but in 7 days, I already made my country much more great, because before an assassin's bullet tore internal organs as the blood spilled, I'd high-five Russell Means and return those black hills. So Monday will be a fun day. I know my term can only end one way as Air Force One enters the runway. I'm in the motorcade with my friend straight vibing after I legalized weed and psilocybin, because I care for more for visions than war. Make your crib something you can afford. Rent control those bastard landlords. Afford apartments. Every indigenous nation needs to do a version of the haka in parliament until the old devil's attention span pull a mermaid man screaming evil. So they cut my sequel. I walk into the Oval Office looking at my predecessors who weren't so peaceful. But unlike Clinton, I won't be messing up people and leaving semen stains of neglect on blue dresses. So stop the presses. Let Fox News and CNN spin the story in unison as I give my State of the Union with no blue or red ties, representing the wings of the same bird that I despise. Instead, I speak with the stamina of a stallion, wearing my beaded medallion as pictures look to snap me away to dust, a form of wrath and lust, wanting me to feel a conjuring since the house is haunted. Enough of that. Thanos and the CIA carries the Infinity Gauntlet, making governments and political figures disappear. They cheer as they fan the flames, but I got midnight cravings and I'm hungry for games, hungry for gains. The stress is mounting as the media targets my wife and family to entertain, but both sides of the spectrum. But every event in life is a sacred lesson. I'm dreaming of my body laying and leaking in crimson. I wish my life could never be canceled like The Simpsons, but I'm sure in 30 years, if I'm not cremated by fumes, they'll find my body and exhume. I'm thinking of death, they might as well put me in Lincoln's bedroom. I'm sharing his premonition, but I pass more laws letting certain inmates vote from prison, and for people's welfare, there'll be universal health care. And then I'd invite Peltier to have him explain what the world simply doesn't look right, what 50 years behind concrete walls really look like. Out of his half-century storm, it would now be honored in the form of prison reforms, correcting every sentence, and as I give Hawaii its independence, I'm a rose with many flows, grounded with 10 toes, but I will prick you if you get too close. I'm not worried about who would discard me. I'm more concerned about the people who'd say they'd guard me, as they see me as a pawn, yet there will be a powwow every week on the White House lawn. I find that position rewarding, tending to the needs of those who use to false promises and ignoring. Shots ring out slaying me at the time of my prime, letting the eagle in me begin soaring. The nation begins its National Day of Mourning, but I die with peace, no longer in misery. Probably considered the worst president in history, but after 30 years have passed, after the gun blast, history will finally give me my flowers that I never received in my last hours. I was famous, yet they said I was dangerous, but never a danger to anyone's soul. I was dangerous to other men's fear and forms of control. So let the native historians tell my story as a whole, that accurate explain how I was in pain with criticism and little praise, and how a native man shook the world in only 7 days. Thank you. So I wanted to make a little something, a little bit for the audience too. And, you know, I always like to talk about resistance, but I also think, you know, being who you are unapologetically is resistance. You know, simply just getting an education or hearing other people's thought, that's resistance. It's not always about fighting, but it's also like learning and decolonizing the thoughts that you have. And I call this piece, I Am the Resistance. And it goes, do not mistake or take my resistance as the way of the pacifist, because back in the day, they called my grandmother a savagess, and slurs that are incoherent, so I wear the term on my backside as a term of endearment, because to me, a savage must be the one who sits in ceremony. His relationship to the land is one and only. It took a village to raise me, to hold me closely. A savage must be the one who passes down traditions instead of colonial desires over the sacred fires, so my resistance is in every sentence. Every time I speak, I know it'll reach the past, future, and present. The ripple effect where the waves I made will still be flowing long after I become a grain of human remains. But do not sigh, because in my language there isn't a word for goodbye. So in truth, me and my resistance will never die. And resistance isn't always firing a weapon or protesting. Resistance can be speaking your truth as a creative. For me, it's waking up every day unapologetically native, to show them that I will not be a subject of removal, walking with my ribbon shirt, feeling those eyes of disapproval, like I'm committing a criminal act. Society calls it a controversial to take it back. Well, very much alive native tribes tribes just call it a historical fact. So they want me to be silent? Nah, I couldn't really see it. The heart of my community, yeah, I want to be it. Fame is secondary, but Indigenous representation is necessary. So as I take a look and see the view of fire inside each and every single one of you, so glow like the warriors you are in an instant. Your power is not a figment. And to my fellow speakers, you are the resistance. To my grandmothers, you are the resistance. To the audience members right here, you are the resistance. To the marginalized people of the world, you are the resistance. I speak of my matriarchs and how I regard her. She told me not to throw away my life because we have enough martyrs. So instead of a spiritual departure, I'll value my life, my wife, my kin, never to ignore it. Because instead of just dying for a resistance, I am going to live for it and commit right away. I decolonized, I reconnected to my tribe, listened to our traditional drums like a vibe while I was catching ignorance and shade, but I took my resistance and I did it my way. Educating yourself is resistance. Being an ally for others is the resistance. Giving space for natives like me is the resistance. So walk with this land with respect and don't forget that land acknowledgements are only the first step. The sacred ways must return. I carry ecological knowledge and these verses are like controlled burns. And I may be one of the few, so now I pass this talking stick to you while the fire is still fuming. Tell me how we can operate in a world that's forgetting what it means to be human. They called my grandmother a savagist, but her spirit was always strong, stubborn, with persistence. And if she could speak today, she would say that you are the resistance. Thank you guys so much. Okay. How much time we got, Michael?
I don't know. I'm not keeping track.
Oh, okay.
I'm so used to asking you.
I know, we're so used to that. All right.
I'm not in charge this time.
Okay. Well, I'll do like one more quick piece. Okay, all right. I mean, if you request it. Okay. We're good. Well, okay, I call this poem, this last one I'll read to you guys, it's called Dear Angelique. And so for a little background, Angelique is my 8th great grandmother. She was born in the 1680s, and she was a interpreter and translator and mediator between my tribe, the Caddo people, and the Spanish and French Empire. So she spoke 3 languages, and she was there to help her people kind of get through the colonialism that was there. And she outlived all of her daughters and her husband, but instead of becoming a bitter person, she raised her grandkids. And because she did that, I am alive standing here before you today. So I make this piece to honor her. And it says, Dear Angelique, it's me once again. I guess I'm at my wit's end. I keep the phone ringing because I really need a friend or an ancestor to let me know that this life isn't finished. I'm over here dealing with the American colonial system while you dealt with the French, Spanish, and British. The war continues, but morale has been diminished. Living in this modern day melting pot of hell, I hope you know for show and tell. I showed my peers how your past mirrors my future, where you refuse to let anyone neuter your desire for learning. We explain our passions, but others get tripped on the wording. I wonder if you were hurting as much as I have been recently. Decency has been harder to find. Nostalgia's deceptive, but I still continue to rewind. That line that I try to cross becomes more undefined. I'll spit words and spit rhymes in a hurry if I have to spit till blood drops from my gums like scurvy. Trying to live your life and surviving in mine makes the world blurry. Today's jury would cut out my tongue for being too wordy. Dear Angelique, it's me again, filled with doubts despite what has been accomplished. I was born into a frontier that feels lawless. Dog eat dog, brother against brother, capital becoming my lover. And to maintain that love, I must be an earner. It's crazy if they say dog eats dog when all mine wants is to be nurtured. Safety when her eyes shut, my blood is mixed up. Maybe that's why I have a love for mutts. Did you know that term mutt was a term of degradation for laughs, that we are less because we hold 2 or more halves? I say we have the best of both worlds in our diversity, yet there are those who would still verbally hurt me. I know your daughters and I have that in common. I'm looking to be loved a little more often so I can translate that into liberation of spoken word using every metaphor, every simile, every verb. Dear Angelique, will Native American people ever have a space on the poetry scene? Because that would be stellar, for we were America's original storytellers. So the crowd can refer to you and me as the OG. Call us the first of the First Nations creative speakers. We are warriors and leaders, Mother Earth's advocates and speakers. They spit more facts than any preachers. We were here before smallpox was among us. We were here long before Columbus. We were here before the Christians made our children vanish. We were here when Latin America spoke their traditional language before they forcefully learned Spanish from these colonial brutes, forgetting their roots. We were here before help was too late. We were here before the mass rapes. We were here before we were forcefully displaced. We were here alive in the current date in a traumatized state. So we were here before your ugly wooden ships, before this Columbus lookalike named Mark Smith. So what? My eyes are never shut. Dear Angelique, I carry your blood within me so the judges can miss me with useless scores. I carry every battle, every scar, every war. I carry the pain of every tribal member who needed mothering. I carry your joys as well as your sufferings. I'm walking off the stage much more engaged with every word I wrote, and don't even explain your scorecard to me because I'm gone and I don't leave any notes. Instead, I'm writing this for someone who actually brings my poems value, that gave me life when I was lifeless. She said these words score the highest, in the dark they are the brightest, and the gifts that I bring to this messed up world is priceless. Thank you guys so much for having me. And just many blessings. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And you guys are also a big reason like why poetry can thrive, because it's not just about the poets, it's about community too. So I appreciate it. Thank you.